My stepfather ruined my mother's life. He had no idea I was the one collecting every secret to destroy him. I've never told anyone this before. I guess I'm hoping that telling strangers will finally let me breathe. Maybe you'll think I'm a monster. Maybe you'll understand. Either way, here goes. When I was 12, my stepfather moved into our house. His name was Rick. I still hate even typing it out. He came with cheap cologne, expensive suits, and a smile so wide it could split his face. My mom fell for him fast. She was lonely. My real dad left when I was 7 and we never heard from him again. She worked 2 jobs, barely slept, barely ate. Rick swooped in like a savior. I knew he wasn't. At first, he was charming. He brought flowers, cooked her dinner, helped me with my math homework badly, but he tried. Within 6 months, they were married in our backyard, under the oak tree my dad planted when I was born. I remember standing there, itchy in my little suit, wondering why the pit in my stomach felt so heavy. By the time I was 14, I knew exactly who he was. Rick didn't hit my mom, that would have been too obvious. He broke her down piece by piece instead. Little things at first, telling her she should watch her weight, that her laugh was too loud, that she didn't need to go out with her friends because he was enough. When she got promoted, he sulked for days, called her boss a creep, implied she must have done something to get ahead. He drank too much. He flirted with waitresses right in front of her. He made jokes at her expense, disguised as teasing. He'd touch my shoulder just a bit too hard when he thought I talked back. And every time my mom cried, he'd hold her and tell her he was the only one who'd ever love her like this. I hated him. And the thing is, he hated me too. I wasn't his. He couldn't stand it. But he needed me to play nice to keep my mom happy. So we played pretend until he found out he was cheating. I overheard him in the garage on the phone whispering about hotel rooms and sending cash apps. My mom was at her sister's that weekend, trying to clear her head. I stood there, hidden behind the basement door, and I swear I saw red. That night, I made a choice. I wouldn't tell my mom. Not yet. I'd collect everything. So I did. For 3 years. I was quiet, invisible, the perfect stepson. I learned to hide my real face. I got good at making him think I was harmless, an awkward teen too busy with video games to care. But every time he passed out drunk on the couch, I went through his phone. Every time he left his laptop open, I copied files. I taught myself how to clone his hard drives, how to hack his passwords. It wasn't even that hard. Rick was careless because he thought he was invincible. I found hotel receipts, flirty emails, screenshots of dating app profiles. I found bank statements that didn't make sense. He was draining my mom's savings slowly, gambling, paying for escorts, sending money to someone I didn't recognize. I created backups of everything. Google Drive, encrypted flash drives, old burner phones hidden in my closet. When I turned 18, I left for college, but I didn't stop. I installed spyware on his laptop before I left. I showed up for surprise visits just to clone his phone again. He'd grin and call me his boy while my mom made us dinner, and I'd nod and smile and think about setting him on fire. It was around that time I realized Rick wasn't just cheating, he was planning to ruin my mother completely. I found emails with a lawyer. He was trying to get her to sign over the house for tax purposes. He had debts she didn't know about. He was moving money around to offshore accounts. I found messages to some woman he called S about running away when the time is right. The time would have been right when my mom had smart thing and just told her everything then. But I didn't trust that she'd believe me. I'd watched him twist her mind for too long. If I showed her half the story, he'd just spin it back. He'd tell her I was confused, that I was angry, that I was acting out because he was the man of the house now. So I waited. I needed to make sure when I pulled the pin, there was no coming back for him. By 20, I was living in a crappy apartment near campus, working nights at a pizza place, taking computer science classes by day, all paid for by my own loans and scholarships. Rick never gave me a cent. I didn't want his dirty money anyway. But my mom called me every week. Sometimes I'd hear her voice break, that little hitch that meant she'd been crying before she dialed. She'd say everything was fine. That she was just tired. That Rick was under stress. I'd say I loved her. I'd tell her I'd come home soon. And every time I hung up, I'd stare at my wall and imagine burying him in the backyard. But murder's messy. Revenge is cleaner if you're patient enough. I got my break last Christmas. Rick was passed out at the dining table after drinking half a bottle of scotch and trying to argue with me about politics. My mom had gone to bed early, headache, she said. He snored so loud I could hear it from the kitchen. I knew his phone's passcode by then. I took it, plugged it into my laptop, cloned everything in under 10 minutes. There was a message thread from that night. He'd sent S a picture of my mom sleeping, the blankets pulled up around her shoulders. The caption made my blood run cold, soon it'll just be us. I'm so close, baby. I knew then it wasn't just financial. He was going to break her, maybe worse. I had to finish it. So I spent the next 6 months every receipt, every shady transaction. I traced the offshore accounts, found the shell companies. I pulled screenshots of his conversations with escorts and the woman S. I traced S to an Instagram account, then to Facebook. She had no clue what Rick was telling her. She thought he was a rich divorce. She didn't know about my mom or me. I made copies of everything, one set for my mom, one for the police, one for the IRS. And one, just for good measure, for S. I figured she deserved to know who she was dealing with too. But it wasn't enough. I needed him done. No loopholes. No silver lining. He'd used my mom's love to drain her spirit and her money, so I decided to use his love for himself to burn him down. The week before my graduation, I booked a train ticket home. I told my mom I had a surprise. She sounded so happy, her voice was light for the first time in months. I didn't tell her what I really had in my backpack, 3 flash drives, a burner phone, and a manila envelope full of every secret Rick ever tried to bury. I sat on that train with my bag on my knees and stared out the window at the endless green fields, and I thought, this ends now. I thought I'd feel afraid, but I didn't. I felt like a surgeon about to cut out a tumor. A necessary thing. Clean. Precise. And when I got off that train and saw my mom waiting for me, tired eyes, sad smile, I knew I'd do whatever it took. I've seen people say revenge never fixes anything. Maybe they're right. But sometimes it's not about fixing. It's about ending. I'll post part 2 tomorrow if you guys want it. Trust me, it gets worse. And better. And I promise, Rick never saw me coming. First, I didn't expect this to blow up. I read every comment, even the ones calling me a psycho vigilante, which, fair. Some of you asked why I didn't just tell my mom. I get it. But if you've ever watched someone you love get gaslit for years, you know they don't hear you the first time. Or the second. Or the 10th. They need the truth to hit like a freight train, undeniable, all at once, no cracks for the roaches to slip through. So, here's how I did it. When I got home from the train station, my mom hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would snap. Rick wasn't there yet. He was working late. Sure. She asked if I wanted dinner. I told her I'd take her out instead, just us. She hesitated, because Rick wouldn't like that, but I insisted. So we went to the sad little diner off the highway where I used to get pancakes as a kid. She tried to make small talk. How were classes? Did I have a girlfriend? Was I eating enough? I just nodded and smiled and waited for the waitress to leave. Then I put the envelope on the table between us. She laughed, like it was a joke. I didn't laugh back. I told her to open it. I'll never forget the way her hands shook. The first page was screenshots Rick's emails to S. My mom's face went pale. Then the receipts, the hotel stays, the escorts, the bank transfers. She covered her mouth. She said my name once, like a question. Then she flipped to the lawyer's letters, the ones about putting the house in Rick's name alone. The ones about her pension. She looked at me and whispered, "How did you?" So I told her. Everything. At first she wanted to defend him, the old reflex. It's not what it looks like. He wouldn't do that. But I just sat there and let her read every page. I showed her the phone backups. The audio recordings. The video clips. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, I planted an old nanny cam in the living room last year. Rick used to take calls in there when he thought she was asleep. Every rotten piece. She didn't cry right away. She just went so still it scared me. Then she whispered, "What do we do?" I told her, "We end him." We spent that night in her car, parked at the far end of a Walmart lot, so Rick wouldn't come home to find us talking. She kept saying she felt sick. She was mad at me for waiting so long, but she was more mad at herself for letting it get this far. I told her not to blame herself. This was Rick's game. He picked her because she was kind. Because she forgives too easily. Predators smell it. She wanted to confront him right away. I said no. I'd waited years, she could give me 3 more days. So here was the plan. Freeze him out. We made a list of every joint account she could access. The next morning, she emptied them. She moved her paycheck direct deposit. Changed her passwords. Locked her credit. Legal kill shot. I had copies of everything, the lawyers planned to steal the house, the offshore stuff. My mom's friend knew a bulldog divorce attorney who owed her a favor. We drove straight there. My mom told him everything. He nearly salivated when he saw the files. He filed an emergency petition that day to keep Rick from moving assets or selling anything. Tax grenade. I filed a tip with the IRS about the offshore accounts and the gambling. They love that. Free money for them. Nuclear reveal. This was my favorite part. I mailed anonymous packages, all the receipts and screenshots, to Rick's office, his sleazy lawyer buddy, and to S. I found her address through her Instagram geotags. Petty? Yes. Necessary? Day 3, Rick also still didn't know. He thought my mom was just in a mood. He tried to corner her in the kitchen. I heard him from the hallway. He was saying she was being dramatic. That she was lucky he put up with her. That she should act like a wife. I stepped in. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Mom and I need to talk. Alone." He tried to square up. For the first time, I wasn't a scrawny teen anymore, I was taller than him, broader. He backed down. I could see it, the moment he realized he didn't scare me anymore. That night, my mom served him the divorce papers. I wish I could say she threw them in his face, but she just slid them across the table and said, "It's over." Rick laughed. He really laughed. He said she'd get nothing. That he'd take the house, the car, her retirement. He called her worthless. He said no lawyer could beat him. Then I pulled out my phone and played back one of his calls, bragging to S about how he'd leave that dried-up cow with nothing. His face changed so fast I almost laughed. She told him to get out. He refused. He thought he could wait her out. So she called the cops, not to kick him out yet, but to make a record. Smart. He knew he was screwed when they showed up and told him he'd have to leave if a judge ordered it. You'd think that was the end. But Rick wasn't done. 2 days later, he came back while my mom was at work. I was in the house packing my own stuff, staying with friends so she wouldn't be alone later. I heard the door slam. Heavy boots. Then his voice, low, angry. He found me in the living room. He was drunk. He started screaming, asking if I thought I was a man now, if I thought I could ruin him. He lunged at me. Swung. Clipped my cheekbone. I just stood there and let him hit me one good punch. The cops came in 7 minutes flat. Turns out, my mom's lawyer had filed a protective order that morning. He broke it by coming in drunk and putting hands on me. They dragged him out in cuffs. He was yelling the whole time about how we pay. After that, it was like dominoes. S dumped him. Apparently she had no clue he was married or broke. She posted a rant about him on Facebook. I screenshotted it for my mom. We laughed about it over cheap wine. His job fired him. HR got the envelope. I sent all the fun details about the fraud and the offshore money. He'd used company cards for some of it. Oops. The IRS sent him a nice letter. He tried to call my mom crying about how she had to help him fix it. She blocked him. You'd think this is where I'd say we rode off into the sunset. But here's the thing nobody tells you about revenge, it doesn't fix the hole. My mom's still wrecked. She's getting therapy now, she cries a lot, but at least it's the kind that cleans you out, not the kind that rots you from the inside. I stay over on weekends to help fix up the house. We're gonna sell it soon, too many bad memories in those walls. Rick's living in a tiny apartment with no savings. He still tries to send me drunk voicemails, threats, weird apologies, threats again. I keep every single one. Insurance, just in case. Sometimes I wonder if I became a bit like him. Cold. Calculating. But then I remember, I didn't do this for me. I did it so my mom could breathe again. And if that makes me a monster, so be it. I know some of you will ask, do I regret it? Not for a second. I'd do it all again, slower, if I could. There's more, if you want it, the court case, the final reckoning, the little twist I didn't see coming that nearly blew it all up in my face. Let me know if you want part 3. Hey everyone, I'll post it soon. Didn't think I'd be back so soon, but I can't sleep. Might as well finish this. So, Rick was out of the house, job gone, side piece gone, IRS breathing down his neck. But the real fight was just starting, the divorce. Rick wasn't stupid in one sense, he lawyered up with the nastiest, slimiest snake he could find. He tried every trick to stall the court date, emotional distress, wrongful accusations, even claimed my mom forged the documents. We expected it. The lawyer my mom hired was ready for all of it. The real problem was the money trail. Some of the accounts I'd found were easy to prove. Others were just whispers, prepaid debit cards, fake names, cash withdrawals. The bastard had layers. If we couldn't pin those down, he'd still walk away with half the house, maybe alimony. We needed more. So I went back in. This time I got risky. I posed as Rick. Made a fake email, same style as his old ones. Sent a sweet little note to S, pretending to be him trying to explain. Asked if she still had any of the money he'd wired her because his wife froze everything. And guess what? S replied. She sent me screenshots, proof of wire transfers and some real gems about Rick's promises to launder more cash soon. I thanked her politely and saved every word. With that, my mom's lawyer slammed the door shut. Offshore fraud, asset hiding, adultery with proof, the judge tore Rick apart. My mom kept the house, her retirement, and the judge ordered him to pay back everything he'd borrowed from her personal accounts, with interest. But here's where it almost blew up in my face. A week before the final hearing, Rick's lawyer found out about my catfish email to S. They tried to claim I committed wire fraud. I sat there in that gray courthouse room, watching my mom's eyes go wide as Rick's lawyer waved my fake email printout around like a smoking gun. For a second, I thought I'd wrecked it all, but my mom's lawyer was ruthless. He argued that Rick's crimes dwarfed my little misrepresentation, that I only did it to prove a larger fraud that Rick committed. In the end, the judge didn't even blink, said Rick opened the door by defrauding everyone first. If anything, he said I'd done the court a favor. I got a warning, nothing more. My mom squeezed my hand so hard under that table, I thought she'd break my fingers. When the gavel fell, Rick had nothing left. He stormed out of court red-faced and shaking, yelling about suing everyone. He never did. He couldn't afford another lawyer. Last I heard, he's living 2 towns over in a rented room behind someone's garage. He's got a busted old truck and some bartending gig that barely pays enough to cover the IRS settlement. Every once in a while he tries to email my mom some pitiful mix of threats and love bombing. She forwards them straight to her lawyer and blocks him again. As for my mom, she's not magically healed. But she's free. That's worth everything. She sold the house, paid off her debt, bought a tiny condo with good locks and no memories of him in the walls. She signed up for pottery classes. Joined a book club. She smiles more now, sometimes it even reaches her eyes. She tells me she wishes she'd seen him for what he was sooner. I tell her it doesn't matter, she saw him in the end. That's what counts. As for me? I graduated. Got a job in cybersecurity, funny, right? Sometimes I wonder if I'd have chosen a different path if Rick hadn't taught me how to dig through digital garbage. Probably not. Maybe the worst people really do teach you useful things, but they never get to profit from it. I haven't heard Rick's voice in months. I kept all the voicemails. Sometimes I listen to the first one, the one where he calls me a sniveling little bastard who thinks he's smarter than me. And I smile. I still wonder if I crossed a line. If there was a better way, if I should have gone to the police sooner, or been less cruel, or left it to karma. But here's what I know for sure, if I hadn't done it the way I did, my mom would still be trapped under him. Maybe she'd be broke. Maybe worse. I sleep fine. I guess that's it. The tumor's gone. The scar's still there, maybe always will be. But she's free. And so am I. If you read this whole mess, thanks. If you're in a hole like my mom was, please know, sometimes monsters win because good people play fair. Sometimes you have to dig in the dirt to bury them. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Stay safe out there.